What's up, guys? How's it going today? We're here for a quick video because we're recapping the Fight League Atlantic 4 event that was taking place this Saturday in Sackville, New Brunswick. Another event for Fight League Atlantic. I've been very pleased with their momentum, with their rhythm right now. It's been a month and a half since their last event, and they're already back, already putting on another great show for us, the fans, and for the fighters back there, because I've got to say, that Fight League Atlantic have been doing it well. Since they came to light, since they begun their activities, there have been so much talent in Eastern Canada, so many fighters that have been wanting to fight, wanting to jump on these events because these events are great. I'm sure they're great in person. I wish I could attend one of these events someday. I will be there for sure. I've been in talks with my man Derek, and I will attend one of these events. It's just that, man, life comes at you so fast, and it's just tough to leave the province for a weekend and just go watch some MMA. But fuck, I want to do it so bad because like the venues look really good on the pay-per-view, on the stream. So I'm sure that these events deliver in public and when you attend them live, because they deliver on the pay-per-view, and live events are always better than pay-per-view events. But regarding that said pay-per-view, amazing stream. Never had any problem with the stream. I don't know if everybody has the same experience, but for my part, stream always worked out to super well. No lagging. Not even like sometimes when you're live streaming, there's when it gets tougher, you lose a little bit of the connection. The quality like diminishes. But I've never encountered that problem at all with any Fight League and Landing stream. And the event's well produced. It looks good on stream. It looks good on TV. So every element's there, and the fighters are seeing it, and the fighters want to jump in. Every event, we've got some new amateur fighters making their debut. We've got some amateur fighters that we're seeing back, and they're beginning slowly after only 4 events. Like, I don't know shit about local MMA, local amateur MMA in Nova Scotia, in New Brunswick. I don't know these guys. I just don't know them, especially the newer ones. And there's already some names, some guys that I know, that I remember from past Fight League Atlantic events. So slowly but surely, I wouldn't say slowly because it's only their 4th event and it's already working out. They're already producing names that I know on the pro side, of course, because I try to follow every pro fight in Canada. But on the amateur side too, there's guys like Logan, like MacDonald, like Josh LeBlanc, like Sebastian Akerley, that like I remember these names. I know that I've seen these names, and when I see these guys, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I remember that guy. And when they fight, they win, they build up their stuff, and when they lose, man, then there's another fucking guy that I need to worry about because he just beat, let's say, Logan, or we're gonna speak about. But for this event, and another good thing, Fight League Atlantic put on 2 pro fights, which is 1 pro fight more than the last event, Fight League Atlantic 3, and only 1 less pro fight than their very first event. Because, very first event pre-pandemic, and now the pandemic hit, and it ruined everything in Canada. Basically everything. There were no more fights, no more pro fighters. People were trying to flee the country and trying to go train elsewhere, or some of them other fighters just found themselves a job, and now they got good paying jobs, and they don't want to go into a cage and fight for a few bucks and hope of making it to the UFC or something someday. Some of these guys, just because of the pandemic, because of everything that happened, just moved on from that dream. So it's tougher. Sorry for promotions to to find guys to compete at the pro level. And it's cool to see the amateur scene flourish in Eastern Canada, like it's been doing right now, because we know that there's some guys that are gonna make the jump to pro and be really good in the near future. But now, like I said, there were 2 pro fights, and the main event of the evening had 2 really familiar faces, because Justin Bourgeois was making his return to competition for the first time since 2016. Basically, he was briefly booked in 2018 and then in 2020 for fights, but they all fell through. They didn't materialize. So he had been inactive since 2016, which is basically almost 6 years ago, like 2 months off to be 6 years ago to the day since he fought Kyle Nelson at Elite One MMA. He had a 7-6 record, really well known guy, the guy who had fought like the Kyle Nelsons, the Tommy Cotes, the Lenny Wheelers, and Brad Duguay, Lyndon Whitlock, like some of the names that we still see in MMA up to this day. This guy fought him, and like a well-known guy, well-known action fighter who always brings like the animosity and the action into a fight. And he was back in action in the main event in front of his own. Let's say it like that, because like I know it was in. I know it was in New Brunswick, and our homie here Justin is from Nova Scotia, but like I don't know. It's pretty. It's not in front of his own. Not in front of his own at all. But like, shit. He was fighting Patrick Connors, basically. Samurai MMA's own Patrick Connors. Ooh, we know we've been talking about Pat Connors for a while because we've seen him fight for the two first Samurai shows. Started his career 3-0, then lost 4 fights in a row, all of them by submission, and then was able at the last Samurai event to come back and get a first round finish to even his record out to 4-4 and start the year off with a bang. And you know that Pat Connors wants to be active. The guy wants to be active, and a little more than a month, like a month and 3-4 days after his last fight, he was back into the cage fighting Justin Bourgeois, and did not take long for him to win that fight. Unfortunately for Justin, his return kind of got spoiled here by Pat Connors, who was super rangy, because he's fucking tall, man. He's 6 feet 1, 2. I don't know. He's fucking tall, man. This guy is a giant at 145. He's got amazing reach, and he knows how to use it, and was able to time Justin Bourgeois with an amazing straight right. Absolutely took him out. And what I liked about the stoppage is that Pat Connors knew the fight was over, and the referee kind of looked like he wanted to see more. It kind of looked like he wanted to see Pat Connors jump in and do some more damage, but Connors knew it was over. Basically looked at the ref like, do I really need to jump in? Because I'm not. Basically, I'm not jumping in. So you can either stop the fight right here, or you can let him get back up, and I'm gonna probably knock him down in the coming seconds. And finally, the referee just put an end to this fight. 1:30 in, I believe, less than 2 minutes for sure. First round knockout. Pat Connors now moves up to 5-4, so he's over 500, back where like he deserves to be, because he's a really good fighter. And like in his 4-fight losing streak, the guy fought like Maxime Poulain, Mike McAloon, Dakota Hope Lewis, who's a really good American prospect, and Frédéric Dupreux, who's probably the brightest Quebec prospect right now. So the guy fought top competition, and even done well against some of them for the time that the fights lasted. Unfortunately got submitted in these fights, but now he's back 5-4. Pat Connors, and just one of the better guys like that you're gonna find around. I love this guy so much. He's just down to fight whoever, whenever. He just always comes in with the perfect attitude. He's cool. He's humble. He's super thankful for the opportunity, and like just the best guy to deal with like in the fucking world. So major props to Pat Connors. And man, for Justin, I don't know what's gonna happen with him, to be quite honest. It's not the way you want to return. I guess now that he's back, might as well stick around if he likes to. Like, there's a promotion near his home who's active, who's gonna bring some guys for him to fight and put him into some nice matchups, and why not? But if he felt like that wasn't it, and he doesn't want to move on with the rest of his career, since the guy's basically 39, 40 years old, fighting since 2007, so an ultimate vet. And if that was like a one-off because he lost or whatever, then just props to Justin Bourgeois. The guy has been like a guy who I wasn't following Canadian MMA back then, but I was like looking at their Tapology rankings and stuff like that. And it's a name I remember from back then. It's a name that I knew that I had heard of, and that's something that's quite remarkable, since I wasn't basically following the local scene at that time. So props to Justin, and even bigger props to Pat Connors for that first round early finish, not early stoppage at all, but early finish of Justin Bourgeois. Amazing performance by Pat Connors, who probably is gonna be back on the next Samurai card. Who knows? It's early September that it's penciled in to be. So can't wait to see what's next for the big Omi Pat Connors. And then in the other pro fight of the evening, Jerico MacPhee was fighting Jesse Heartz. I was gonna say on short notice. I don't think it's short, but well, this card was kind of on short notice. Just let's just say it like that. This card was on short notice. The fights were probably penciled in, were probably planned before the event, but they waited after the April 30 event to announce them. So yes, kind of a short notice ish card. Which is okay because it delivered all the way through. So why do we even care? But first, the Omi Jericho MacPhee was set to fight Evan Piercy, but Evan couldn't make it to fight night, got injured. I don't really know what happened there, to be quite honest. So I won't even say he got injured, but probably he did because he didn't fight. But didn't make it to fight night, was replaced on short-ish notice. We kind of learned that a couple of weeks ago at least. So short-ish notice by pro debutant Jesse Heartz, who came in for that fight. And man, kind of did good. Kind of did good after a spirited but losing effort to Luc de Saint Croix on the last Fight League Atlantic card. He was still ready to go. He was still able, and he came in and he did really good, man. Jesse Heartz came in and took I was gonna say the veteran. Jericho MacPhee's not a veteran. He only had 2 pro fights, but like the more experienced guy had fought as a pro. We've seen MacPhee train at plenty places like TriStar, like Syndicate MMA. So the guy has been training with a top level of position. So the most experienced guy there. And Jesse Heartz just came in, took him down, worked him on the ground, was doing really well in all aspects. And man, to be quite honest, I missed the pivotal point of that fight because Heartz was doing great. And then I had some friends over and stuff, and we were watching like the UFC and Fight League Atlantic on 2 different screens. And then I just like turned around and spoke to my friend, and not turned back around, and oh shit, MacPhee was now on top, and he was on the choke, and basically he submitted Jesse Heartz kind of out of nowhere in a fight that I feel like Jesse Heartz would like it was on his way to win that first round, that's for sure. And MacPhee was just able to turn it around and in an instant just win that fight, get the submission, get the first round finish. So experience paid off, and shout outs to Jesse Heartz, man. I want to see him back at it for sure. Maybe even no, I won't say that, but I was gonna say maybe even a rematch with Luc de Saint Croix for Luc's pro debut, but nah, let them guys stay apart for a little while. For sure, I want to see that fight again at some point, but I think I'd keep them apart for at least like a year or 2. But I feel like Luc should be making his pro debut, that's for sure. Since Jesse just made his and looked pretty fucking good, man. Looked like he was on his way to win that fight until he didn't. So major props to him. And then let's move on to some amateur action. You know that usually I do not recap amateur fights because like there's so many fights to watch. There's so many fights to recap in a year that like I don't really go out my way to recap some amateur action. But Fight League Atlantic, they're my guys, and there's always some like super insane action like Sebastian Akerley, who just came in against experienced amateur fighter Corey Forsythe and fucked him up basically uh, pretty badly. A great TKO win in the very first round for the Omi Sebastian Akerley, who that's weird because when I look at his topology, that's a name I knew, that's a name I remember, but he never fought for Fight League Atlantic before he had fought for Elite One, and I didn't see these Elite One events, so I don't know why I remember Sebastian Akerley. I don't know why I remember his name, but I remembered his name, and I was right too because he did really well in that fight. Like I said, getting the first round finish against a guy that had plenty amateur fights and had won most of his amateur action too. So Good performance all around for Akerley. Of course, when you get a first round finish like that, it's always a good performance, especially when you get it in the very first minute of the fight, basically. But amazing stuff by Akerley. Forsythe, man, it's not a good night for him. What am I gonna say? Then we'll be looking at the Omi Josh LeBlanc, who that's another fight that I think switched on his head pretty quick, because I'm pretty sure Pineault was doing great in that fight. And then at a point, there was just a reversal, and Josh LeBlanc ended up in a guillotine from mount position and looked absolutely devastating. And he won the fight, basically. Was able to get the submission in that fight and win it. To continue be a guy that's going to be on my radar, that's for sure. Josh LeBlanc is a good fighter, and I can't wait to see more of him. Then, of course, I want to talk about my man Rob Logan, who was fighting once again in his 4th amateur fight. And Rob Logan's MO is pretty much, I'm going to take everything you got and I'm a return, and I know that I'll be able to take it more than you'll be able to take it. And that's kind of his MO, most of his fights, he's not really winning until he is, and that's why he's so exciting. The guy just always comes out of the woodwork to brawl and to be hard hitting and to hurt his opponents. And he's given us, like, the Owen Warren fight on the last event was pretty good. The Thomas Johnson fight was probably my favorite on Fight League Atlantic 2. A real good performance with a 3rd round finish there. But he was fighting Kalem Furey, and you know what? Kalem Furey just was able to take it and was able to ditch it back, and it just gave us a real good back and forth contest that ended by split decision in favor of Kalem Furey, who I feel was able to implement the more complete game plan on Rob Logan. Yes, there were some grappling exchanges, and both had their moments everywhere, but I feel like Furey did a really good job in that fight to get the win from the jaws of defeat, and get the split decision over Rob Logan, who, like I said, he's there to take some punishment and ditch some punishment in return. And looks like Furey was able to take it and give back just a little bit more, so he was able to win that fight in a very good performance. Then let's talk about Rory Gillis. I was gonna call him Roy Gillis. Rory Gillis, who man was fighting Matt MacDonald, who I remembered pretty well from his first fight. The guy had caught my eye for sure. First, he's red-haired, and he's a fucking madman, like an absolute madman in the cage, a little bit like Rob Logan. Not gonna lie, these were on the amateur side, the 2 names that I remembered the most, and that's because they're absolutely crazy when they fight. And MacDonald tried to bring that game plan in against Gillis, but Gillis wrestled. Clearly, this guy wrestled in his life and was able to just out wrestle the ginger Matt MacDonald. And what was a good fight, to be honest. MacDonald fought really hard, like that he's gonna do, but really it was Gillis's takedown and control on top, and the way that he was able to stay on top of his opponent and really do a good job to get the decision here in a very dominant performance in the end. A good, like, a fight where they both had their moments, but I feel like at no point there was a momentum switch. At no point we were like, oh, I think MacDonald's taken over. He was doing some good stuff, but was not able to deal with Gillis's grappling and wrestling and takedown. So basically, Gillis won that. Really good fight, and that leads us to the first fight I saw, because I had some people at home and we tuned into the event, but I wasn't really able to sit down. I was cooking like steaks and shit, so I wasn't really able to sit down until the David Chapman Zach Raymond fight. I saw from the corner of my eye the Zach Young KO, which was in the very beginning of the second or third round. I don't really know. I just know it was the beginning of a round. I saw the two guys in their corners, and the round began, and he just like blasted him in the few seconds of the fight. So good shit by Zach Young, but I won't like comment on the performance per se because I haven't seen him outside of the knockout. So the first fight I saw was David Chapman, Zach Raymond, and that fight was hilarious. I really liked what I saw from Raymond, especially on the post fight. I won't lie, in the post fight, the guy was super excited, screaming his lungs out. Did not know what the fuck just happened, to be quite honest. It's like, so can you comment on the finishing sequence? Well, I have no clue what happened. I just don't remember. I'm too pumped up. Let's fucking go ahead. He was screaming. I just liked it. I liked his energy. The guy was making his amateur debut, and they did really great. Was able to knock his opponent out in the second round of that fight. Yes, second round, 1 minute and 13 seconds in. And man, kind of a brutal finish. I really like the guy. Looks so young too, to be quite honest. I don't know how old this guy is, but he looked so fucking young, and just can't wait to see what's next for him. I just like the energy. I just liked everything that he brought into the fight. So man, another great event for Fight League Atlantic. My hats off to them, and looks like they're gonna keep going. More events this year, even more events next year. I think Derek told me up to 8 events next year. That could be absolutely crazy. Like basically events every month and a half from Fight League Atlantic, and with all these guys that are popping out of nowhere, like so many amateur debuts on that card. Basically, the Jimmy Pineault, Rory, Gillis, Zach Raymond, that was all their amateur debuts. They were fighting guys who already had some amateur fights. And then all before that, like Hamilton, Zach Young, Gallagher, Jacob, Turner, Palmer, Tamayo, Rafuse, they were kind of all making their debuts as amateurs. So each and every event, so many new fighters coming over and making the jump to amateur MMA and trying their hands at cage fighting. And man, we're gonna get some amazing talent out of that. I can already see it. We've got the guys that we know, like I said, the Logans, the MacDonalds, the Akerleys, Forsythes, and even I'm thinking about like Drake Farrell and all these other guys that weren't on that card, Luke de Saint Croix, and all these guys, man, they're gonna amount to some real good pro fighters. Like amongst all that bunch, there's gonna be some great pro fighters, and every event, each and every event, we see some new guys making their debut, being impressive. And man, I gotta give major props to Derek and to all his crew at Fight League Atlantic for just making it happen. It's been tough for them. Many setbacks, some problems with commission, some problems with some like super stupid bullshit that was taking place, and they overcame all that, and now they're on a roll giving us amazing events. So major props to them. Can't wait to see what's next for Fight League Atlantic 5. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a like if you like, subscribe to the channel for more stuff.